Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the 20s Detox. I'm Bianca, your host, where we dive into all the things that I'm learning and unlearning in my 20s to elevate this decade. Spring is often a time where our confidence wavers. There is a shift in energy, but there's also a shift in clothing style. Winter and fall is a time when a lot of us tend to hermit and stay with our tight-knit community, our family, our tight friends. And then the spring, summer comes and we might have more opportunities to socialize. It's warmer weather, so then we wear more clothing with skin showing. We also have this inert desire to go after goals and dreams, and we have the energy to do so. And then because of that, we're placed in this vulnerable state of other people seeing whether or not we will succeed. And that can be a little bit scary. This episode is for how to build your confidence in your 20s. I think also hand in hand, this episode might give you advice if you take things too personally. I'm trying to find new ways to care less, as funny as that might sound. To care less, I can be more present, I can experience more things, do more things without my head getting in the way. I have all my notes in this book right now, but speaking of your head getting in the way, this is one of them that I journaled on, and I was like, wow, that's actually so cool. And it's about this difference of our mind versus our body. When I am put in these states of either vulnerability, I might be taking a risk or putting myself out there, or just like maybe feeling insecure in general, I learned that my mind always feels like the enemy and my body always feels like the friend. And so that is something that I kind of want to prime you guys throughout this entire episode of recognizing that you can either make a situation catastrophic, worse, or disappear. We do have that power, and it's also what we can focus on. Like the feeling of self-doubt and insecurity is not beneficial to us. I think where that fear comes from is this fear of failure. I'm going to actually link an episode of when I sat in my closet and I recorded an episode that was talking about like the root fears and everything. And so that might enlighten you as to where these feelings of insecurity and self-doubt comes from. But when they do come, we either can ruminate and create a worse scenario that blocks us from being bold, and spring is the time to be bold, right? Or we can try and reset ourselves to just carry on and keep going and realizing nothing is really that deep and nothing really matters there. And it doesn't even need to be psychological. It also can be like potentially you're going for certain fitness or health goals. And what can tend to happen is we focus too much on how our body looks versus how our body feels. I used to treat fitness and food poorly. Now I'm more at a point when I just really want my body to feel healthy. The way that it looks doesn't mean as much as to how it feels. So there will be times, especially because I have a uterus and our body changes quite often throughout a month, that I can't focus too much on that because my body will always fluctuate. But what I'm focused more on, how my body feels, the energy, the long-term energy and strength that comes from staying consistent with my fitness. And that also goes for health. Right away, I'll notice if my diet has been working for me is how my gut is talking to me. If my gut is acting up, then I need to figure out other ways of supporting it. So that's one of them for confidence, is getting out of your head and dropping more into your body, because your head, like I said, kind of acts like the enemy in intense scenarios where you might have self-doubt or you might feel insecure or you are afraid to take certain risks, whereas your body will be the better friend here. The other thing that I want to say is stop comparing to so many people. And I know that you've heard this a lot, but let's get into it. Okay. So when you only have a certain amount of willpower every day, when you have too much of that energy spent per day scrolling on your phone, first of all, doom scrolling, it's going to take away that energy. and make you feel less than because you're like, what am I even doing with my life? When have I been present in my own life to get things done? Secondly, if you find yourself scrolling, which most of us tend to do, is we come across somebody that might be in better shape or seems to have their life together. That is when this comparison loop begins. And this comparison that happens is never out of self-love. And I mentioned this multiple times. You cannot hate yourself towards a better you. And a lot of these comparison loops, actually predominantly all these comparison loops, are not positive. They're not from self-love. I mentioned in another episode recently that I've had to completely limit the amount of people I go to for advice. I also limit the amount of self-help books I read per year, because when you are given so much information without the ability to sit back and reflect on what parts you actually align with and other parts that you feel aren't meant for you, you are going to be in constant turmoil on what is the best decision? What are the best things that I need to do here? And so because of that, a lot of self-doubt will come up. And coming back to the body, when your intuition starts to lead the way, you start to feel more confident because you understand that this is intuitively guided. I think about how, like, if we're in an ocean, okay, and there's like waves or the tides are a little bit stronger, if you just let yourself be, like, the tide is going to take you in a certain direction or like another direction and another direction. And that is somehow, I feel like, a good representation of how my intuition feels, that it's not that I'm just staying put and not moving. I'm still moving, I'm still swimming, I'm still going through life. But at points, the tide or the current will pick up and will push me and nudge me a little bit closer to the path that it needs to be on. And I can either completely resist it, which will make a very difficult shift, or I can listen to that nudge and flow easier to keep going to where I need to go. And because of that, you need to also spend less time in your head and also always researching. You need to be in your body and paying attention to those nudges. Because if the book is saying, no, you need to go 20 steps to the right, but you're getting this current that is taking you another few steps to the left, but the book says this, and you keep going, and it's like a very difficult struggle. And I don't know, like I think about it with a lot of things, like relationships advice. There's a lot of people online that give like relationship advice. And sometimes they're going to be like, well, you have to be like this to your partner, or your parent, or your friend. And if you're not, then it's going to be damaging. Like, I don't know. Like, there's the reason why I say I don't know is because all of it contradicts itself. It's kind of like looking up on Google when you're like, is coffee good for you? And it will say, yes, coffee's good for you. And then you look up, is coffee bad for you? And then it'll be like, yes, coffee's bad for you. So I just feel like sometimes there's too much information. We're getting too much of contradicting advice. And because of that, we're feeling very confused. And that's why I just recommend using it in intentional ways. Yes, we need a little bit of knowledge and advice to know I have to go right, have to go in this direction. But you also need moments of not absorbing all that knowledge and staying in tune with your body and doing your thing to have those nudges with the tide to get where you need to go, because all of us are on our own paths. And it's silly to think like we need to replicate somebody else's path. And imagine if we did, like, we wouldn't even really feel like that proud of ourselves, because we're like, I just copied that person. So I think that delicate balance of just gaining knowledge when you need to, and also taking a step back so that you are not constantly either comparing yourself or overwhelming your system with this knowledge, that extra energy is going to go directly to you, so that you will also have this knowledge that you didn't get from anybody but yourself, being like, actually, I operate like this and I need to communicate like this. Don't disregard your intuition, and also don't spend too much of your willpower on other people. Make sure a lot of your willpower is actually on yourself. And when you do consume content and information from people, try not to over-identify with what's being said. Look at it a little bit more objectively and take it as tools on how you can get to where you want to go. The next confidence tip is using visualizations. I would say I have a little bit of social anxiety, and also like before I would kind of even label myself as a introvert, and I didn't like that. There was something inside of me saying like, I don't really want to be an introvert though. Like I would love to be an extrovert. I would love to be at least an ambivert where I can see people and communicate with people. And I think back to my grandmother, who is so social and just, in my opinion, has such a full life because of all the people that she interacts with. When you sit and talk to somebody, you feel like their energetic field. Like it's so much more fulfilling as a conversation than over the phone or over text. Being in person with them allows you to feel their energy, pick up on their social cues. Like it's like the way humans are meant to communicate. As a result, it feels so much more rewarding. So I wanted to be less introverted. I wanted to start and be more of an extrovert. And how I did that was I did a lot of visualization practices where I would look in the mirror and I would pretend to step into the shoes of like my grandmother, or pretend to step into the shoes of somebody who I felt was a very confident person. And because of that, I kind of carried their energy with me right before going to some sort of event or party or thing where there would be more people around. Another thing that you can do that isn't like stepping into the shoes of somebody else, it's to imagine that you have like a group of people with you as you're moving into a room or into an environment. I'll walk into a room or walk through the city or walk, like if I'm on my own and I have a little bit of social anxiety, I'll imagine like my grandmother's walking with me, or my best friends are with me, or my mom, or like I really envision like a lot of women with me because I feel like so powerful when I'm with women. And I visualize it so that the way I'm carrying myself has this like power and charisma to me, as if I was with these amazing group of women. Like that really does change something within you to feel more confident, even if it's temporarily, even if you are, imagining things or pretending to step into the shoes of somebody else. What this is doing is reprogramming the way that we view ourselves, because we have in the past viewed ourselves as an introvert, shy, socially anxious. And those identities come with us into these environments without actually trying to reprogram it. It will come with you through life. I am just starting to be like, I'm no longer these things. I'm going to be an extrovert and I'm going to pretend I'm my grandmother. And because of that, I'm honestly inventing myself. Like I'm reinventing who Bianca is from now on as a more socially exciting person. At least it's a way for you to start shifting certain things about you that you find limit you. Like I personally feel being more introverted and socially anxious, something holding me back a little bit, because it's my default to dream. It's my default to be alone and recharge there. But too much of it has this energy that has nowhere to go. And I've also found that I've gained so much more wisdom in life and insights on what to do for myself and what decisions to make. Actually, never reading like self-help books. It's by communicating with people. And like I said, with my grandmother, I also feel my life to be a lot more full because I can be with people. Like humans are social beings. We forget that we're not meant to be in isolation, and it's no wonder why we feel a little bit like down when we've hermited too long. So yeah, that's something. So yeah, we talked about getting into your body, that intuition, no longer comparing yourself to others, as easier said than done, right? But at least spending more of that energy on yourself than other people, using visualization tactics to be able to at least start to reinvent yourself and appear more confident than maybe even you really are. The next one that would be really perfect is really understanding that nobody actually knows everything that they are doing in life, like at least not every aspect. There's always every single person battling with some sort of uncertainty, and it's too damaging on yourself to look at somebody and idolize them like they have everything figured out. Nobody has everything figured out. Nobody has every aspect of their life figured out. Some people might have a very successful career, but they are feeling low in their love life and they're unsure if they're going to find somebody in the timeline that they wanted to. Maybe somebody has a really abundant social circle and love life and family connections, but they might be struggling financially, and that's a stress for them. And like, life is complex. So that piggybacks off of a few things that I've said here, where your mind is going to convince you that somebody has something more figured out than you do, when that's just a total lie. You are comparing yourself to other people that you think have everything figured out, and they really don't. And especially if you're thinking about that in a way of just seeing people's highlights online, you know better. You and I know better. That doesn't exist. Those are highlights. Those are people's highlights, the best times. They're not their struggles, whether it's their career, their finances, or their family, or their romance, or their home. It's not everything. It's almost better to just own that about yourself, that you also don't need everything figured out. And it's why when I do my guide, Align Your Life with the Seasons, I limit the people going through the guide and limit myself to like 1 to 3 areas of life if you choose to do the wheel of life for setting goals. Because when you are trying to elevate every single part of your life, it becomes overwhelming, and we actually can't create sustainable change that way. And also, there's always going to be this cycle in life. There's always going to be this cycle when nothing is actually perfect. Like, we're not going to have number 10 on finances, career, family, friends, romance, play, adventure. Like, some of those will dip and slip because we are one person. And there's only so much that we can focus on sustainably moving forward. And not to mention, when we do reach the top, like number 10, we're going to think about other ways of elevating it. Like, that is going to be a baseline that's lessened because we're like, oh, but maybe I could also have this now. So my point is, nobody has everything figured out. I think if that is one of the things that you are punishing yourself with and making you feel less confident because you feel like you might be behind, or you feel like you're not smart enough, or you don't have everything that you wanted, it's important to realize that we're all going to have aspects of our life that are thriving and other aspects that might not be thriving, and that is just life. So I do think also it's good to just pay attention to what is doing well, even if it's a little bit, and be like, oh, I'm proud of myself for at least having that part of the wheel figured out for the most part, because it could be worse. It could be none of them. Or, like, I think it's just good to have appreciation for what is already figuring itself out or like working out. And the last piece of advice for building confidence is stop subscribing to contacts that makes you feel anxious or sad. So I think that all of these kind of blend into one another, really, but I'm trying to separate these points. Stop subscribing to contacts that makes you feel anxious, sad, self-doubt, nervous. It's not benefiting you. Music that makes you feel down. People that are on your YouTube or Instagram that make you feel insecure or doubting who you are. It's not worth it. Like, you are already hard enough on yourself. Do you really need somebody else adding that on your plate? You might already have people in your personal life that do that to you. Why add it onto your plate? Get rid of those people. You don't need them. You don't need those books that make you feel bad. You don't need to finish the book if it makes you feel bad. You don't need to keep following these people. You don't need to keep being friends with people that don't make you feel good. One of the lessons that I've had to do this year, and it was a bit difficult, was to limit the people that I would see that kind of made me feel self-conscious and anxious and not really like my best self. Like, sometimes you can't cut them out, right? Like sometimes you just have to limit it. And personally, I feel like that's okay to do. Like you are protecting your peace. And to support that is recognizing that you need to have the courage to be disliked in order to choose you. Sometimes we lack confidence and feeling proud because what is more powerful than that is not wanting to be disliked. We want to have people just like us, even if we're not thriving. We want to make everybody happy, even if we're not thriving. And to make sure that we are focusing on our growth and our happiness and making sure that our confidence is building is potentially letting other people down, letting other people potentially dislike you. And confidence doesn't need to be arrogance, but if you have been a people pleaser for a long time, they might just think you're arrogant, even though you're just choosing yourself for the first time. So I'll leave that with you. I hope that this helps you feel a little bit better, because the springtime can be a little bit of a hard time with confidence. And so if you did like this episode, make sure to rate it, send it to a friend, follow along. I post an episode every single Tuesday that is seasonal advice or advice with your 20s, or the mix between the two, kind of like this episode. And yeah, it's just a different way of elevating your 20s, because a lot of it is backed by the lessons that I am getting from nature. I appreciate you all for being here. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye.